Okay, so you have the flow of Vayehi Dalet again. He brings here from the Tzemach Tzedek reconciling the Baal Shem Tov and the Arizal with respect to the meaning of Elov Alaylim B'Doisav that it says in Sifri on the pasuk B'chol Kareinu Elov that we are invoking the various shemis, the various names of the Eibishter. It's Elov Alaylim B'Doisav. So the Baal Shem Tov said that the kavan is not to the goof of the Svidus Mamish, the Svidus Midah, but to the Eibishter. Now, it's not clear from the Baal Shem Tov. It's brought down in Likutei Torah, but it's not clear. Does he mean the Oiris, the Mislabish in the Kelim, or the Chais of the Kelim themselves? In other words, in the Oir itself. One second, let me just. In the Oir, the Chalal, there's two properties in the Oir. The overt property is Gilo, Yispashtas, Bligvul. The latent property is Koyach HaGvul. Paradoxically, the Koyach HaGvul, which is about containment, is rooted deeper than Koyach HaBligvul. As we see that, again, the simple nature of nature is to manifest. Yispashtus is the natural condition of Metzius. The natural condition of Metzius of existence is to express itself. To contain is really a property which is contrary to the general definition of beingness, which by nature its presence is felt in its environment. So the Koyach HaGvul is mushus deeper. They wish to made these properties, because it's all part of the kavanah of dir b'tachtonim. And tachton is when there's the ultimate concealment. The paradox will be that in the ultimate concealment lies the greatest investure. At any rate, so that's what comes out at the end. That's what he explains now, that Tzemach Tzedek, that the word of the Baal Shem Tov, he means the chayis in the kelim themselves. And this is not bestided to the Arizal, because the Arizal says, he talks about Vayehi and the other names. Vayehi says is Oir, and the other shemes are kelim. This considered to the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov is saying, yeah, kelim. But what does he mean? Not Oir, it means kelim. But he means the chayis in the keli. And then the Rebbe added, and that's greater than a third kind of pirush, the pardes, because the Arizal spoke about Oir Shema Vayehi, the other Shem is Kelim. The pardes said that talking about all of the Kelim, all of the Shemus, it's all the Oir, the Bligvul that we mean. Again, the moshel of the water in different colored glasses. So looking at the water through the glass, you see different colors. For that matter, the water is contained in different shaped glasses. That's not the moshel that the Pardes brings. Just brings a moshel of this water in colored glasses. Akoponim, he said it's the Oir we're talking when we're addressing the Shemus. Hashem Tov is deeper. Ostensibly, it sounds like he's lower. He says, no, it's not the Oir, it's the Keli. But Be'emes, based on the Tzemach Tzedek's beard, Hashem Tov is deeper than the Pardes. Because he's saying it's the Koyach HaGvul of the Oir itself in the Keli. Right? We're clear with that? Yeah, that's what we're up to. Yeah, a nod. So now continuing, yeah. And that was the nuance that Marash's beard in the Lashon HaZoyer, that Iyu v'chayochad, Iyu v'garmoyochad. Why not simply say Iyu chayoyu v'garmoyochad? Why repeat him again? because the Iyu in Garmoy was a deeper investment than the Iyu in Chayoy, which is Oir. Hence a separate reference. Achadayin in moving. Now this segues into the ultimate Pirush, which is the Alter Rebbe and Chassidus Chabad. So we're up to Achadayin in moving, the number 51, the heart of 51 in the text. What does this mean? How is Ihu united with Garmoy? It's Mamash Gvul. Kelim Garmoy begins Mitzius. Kelim are Mitzius. That's already a sense of complete separateness and entity other than him. How does he unite with something other than him? We have to appreciate that the Eira Bligvul is not other than him. The Eira Bligvul is expressing there's a God. It's revealing the truth there's a God. The Kelim are not saying that there's a God. The Kelim are saying, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes. At best, they're saying God's revealing himself this way. But how can he be Ihu united with that? It's not Ihu. Surely he transcends all definition. How is it possible now? We're saying now that from the Baal Shem Tov, that Ihu, he that's invested in Kalim is even higher than he that's invested in Kalim, in Oir. So you're saying it's even a deeper level of likus, and paradoxically you're saying it's thoroughly united with Gvul. How does this happen? This, friends, is all behemshech. Let's just remember where this comes from. It's all behemshech of the mile of what? The mile of Birani Tzutzis, the mile of Tshuva over Torah mitzvahs, the mile of Shem Tov over Shem and Tov, which is all induced by Upara Hikriv. So this is the beer now. This is the Hemshech. Yesh Lakasha. This is how this all began, right? Beis Dalet. So it continues. So what's the answer? In order that Ihu unite with the Garmohi, it has to draw on a level even higher than Ihu itself, as it were. What's higher than Ihu? The answer is Atzmus. The Eibusht himself higher than any designation, period. In the face of which Vul and Bligvul, Chay and Garmoy are all equal. And therefore it can be one with this Kalim. And this is the true Elov, him. Kibisha ben Azoken, as Rebbe says, Shekoy ala Atzmos. This is important again in Hayom Yom, in Yud Aleph Tishrei. And it's fairly obvious why it's brought Yud Aleph Tishrei. Marchas Yom Kippurim. Because in Kippur it is that Giloi in Kodesh HaKadoshim of Nimna Nimnois. But then it says Yud Aleph is even higher. That's as if to say, what happens in Kippur is a result of the Gilui of Yud Aleph. As we have talked about and shared and learned, what the Rebbe revealed in Tavshin Nun and Tavshin Nun Beis, especially in connection with the Rebbetzin, whose yahrzeit is Chav Bei Shvat, the 22nd, 2 times Yud Aleph, Shvat, the 11th month, and the whole Arich is how our generation is connected with Yud Aleph, Dafke, and the Fidig Rebbe is Dafke with Yud, hence this talk says Yud Shvat, and they pointed out that the Rebbe pointed out in a letter, the Fidig Rebbe in the last few months of his life, you saw the picture, signed his name, Yosef Yitzchak, the first, was the Yosef the Yitzchak, remember, is a very, he wrote out the letter Yud and filled it in. Al Kaponim, so Yud Aleph, Tishrei is where this Hayom Yom is of the Alter Rebbe. Namely, that Elo goes not to Muslim Sheshem Shemaim Shogeg B'Fikol, and that's the reason why literally the name of heaven is Shogeg B'Fikol. Is Shogeg means it's customary, it's readily on the mouth of everyone, of all creation. God. This is not any gilui. This is the essential being of God. Like we say, why do people believe in God? What's the reason people believe in God? The answer is because he's there. Because he is. And again, you don't have to teach children about this. And the more you say, the more you complicate it. God, finished. Pshitas ha'atzmos. Ani mispalo ladas ze'atinak, brought in the previous Maamer from the Rivosh, who said he davens like a child. The Rivosh is an early edition. So the liyos and nimna nimnois. So this is atzmos. There's no words. The words we can say is beyond, hidden from, withheld from withheld, hidden from hidden. So it's he, therefore, that can be one with Garmohi. And for that matter, it's even Garmohi and Chayohi too. So when Nimtza comes out, conclusion, it's all to bring out what? The Chibur of Afachim, the transformation of Cheshach into Oir, the Mile of Tshuva, etc. The Nimtza Shnei Perushim Pinyin Hashem, the two Perushim that we brought it now, with respect to the meaning of a name, what did we say? Number one, Shem begematria Rapach Uban. So Shem is the gematria of Rapach and Ban, which is Shem Ban, which is the Shem Malchut, which is the Aveda, which elevates the Rapach, the Tzutzi Kedusha. Sho'inyan Birani Tzutzis, Visapcha Hasheichel Neira. It's all about, Shem is all referred to the Aveda of, especially the notion of Shem, which is Be'ikir Shem Ban. It's all about transforming darkness into light. That's one pirush. And then v'kolosin Hashem mishaker lachayis hakelim. And then the general pirush now brought down and laid bare from the Baal Shem Tov, now the Alter Rebbe, which is Iyu shemisyachadim garmoihu. Hashem is this paradox of atzmus united with gvul and bli gvul. So the two shayachim zelazeh, these two pirushim are connected, because both of them is a fusion of opposites. Both are the unity of opposites. Down here in this world, rooted in the source of shame, and how does that happen? Because it's Dani, Keshemshe, Lefi Maisai, Ani Nikra, it's Dani, Bechinis Atzmos, that is Nikra Shonina Nimnois, which is beyond. That's what's invested in the Shemus, and hence Mikoyach, that can be the beard of what? Cheshach Ta'ir. So invoking these names in the Aveda of, it's all about what do you invoke these names? All the different ways they wish to manifest in the world. In Aveda Hashem, invoking these names, what we're really drawing on is Natzmos, which is Bekoyach, therefore, to achieve the ultimate Aveda in this world. Lefi Maisai, I need Nikra. Why do I have these names? Because I'm relating to the world of Maisa. And what's your Aveda in the world of Maisa? Your Aveda is Yishapcha, the Aveda Satshuva. So this Aveda Satshuva, you connect to by calling on me. If you Maisai, I need Nikra, you call on me in divine assistance, etc., and empowerment in all of the various situations and matzavim that a yid is, all for one objective. And I am revealed in my shame is integral to my shame is ani, nimna nimnois, and the fusion of opposites. Therefore, as you call to me on my name, you are empowered by this koyach to be able to take the cheshach of the world and make it oir. Is that kind of clear? Yeah. Vayehi. I'd like to finish the Maamer because I want to start the third Maamer, the longest one, and conclude it at least before Yud Shvat. Called Bonim. Okay, good. So the Shema said there's gewaldige empowerment that is granted to a Yid when he calls upon God. Now he says, and they say, how do you call upon God? In order to be mamshich, it means bligvul means the true bligvul. Nimna nimno is the true bligvul. Not classic bligvul is in contrast to keichagvul, but the true bligvul, through which darkness can be transformed into light. So what's the avodah tzarich lis yinat bittul dafke? That's the keli. Kikols man shalom bebechinas mitzias. If it's about me as a yochel hamshich lakabel, so it can be a very nice me, a very beautiful me, a very holy me. That's very nice. And imam shech hamshoches, but rak lakabel, rak oishebak bola, touching the essence of the Eibishter, you don't. Imam shech oishebak bola, and that's not going to make any real change. So be a nicer you, a bigger you. We're not the desire, the kavanah, the call here is not a nicer me. The call here is revolution, transformation. And that can only happen, it's only if you put self aside. Like the Rebbe says in the first Maamer, there's two kinds of Mesiras Nefesh. There's Mesiras Nefesh that is his own shleimus, like Rabbi Akiva, he's preparing his whole life to give his life up for God. But the Rebbe says that's not the shleimus. The shleimus is Avram. Deira Shvi from Avram. It wasn't about Mesiras Nefesh. If that's required, so be it. But it was about what the kavanah. That's all. And what brings this out is Paroi. Paroi kvetches this truth out of us. That's why Paroi Hikra goes the Shaila. What's Paroi coming along? It's one thing to say we come down to the world to. It seems we struggled with the question. I think the question is coming clearer as he gives the answer. It's one thing to say the neshama comes down to the world to elevate in Tzutzik Dusha. Good, it's done, gone. They're going out in Mitzrayim. They took in Tzutzik Dusha. Goodbye. Pari's behind, and we have the Nitzas Gedusha. Why is Pari accompanying us? Because at every step of the way, it has to be the Meitzah, the Bittul, induced by Pari.
This is a little bit opposite to the concept of Atat Tetzaveh, that it's not coming out of pressure, it's coming from yourself. Pressure of Golus, not somebody else's pressure giving you pressure.
But that's what Atat Tetzaveh is saying. Instead of having it done externally.
Correct. So
this Pari Hikriv is something that you should invite or create. It's still the same minyan. They're just saying, do we have to have Gezeiris to bring this out in us? Be misbanyan in the matzav and the kavanah, and that'll kvetch it out of you. Put yourself under pressure, but still in a Pari Hikriv. And the Pari comes from because we're in Golas. As he says in the Maamer, there's one place in the world, 1 year that doesn't have what he needs. Then it's a bracha lagamri. That's the emes of Pari Hikriv with that is not externally induced, but
in other words, self-induced.
Self-induced, yeah. Yeah. So that's close, in the Golas Mitzrayim. So this is Golas Mitzrayim Loshen Meitzah, pressure. Chen kol shara gol yishtikl Mitzrayim, or they're all called Mitzrayim. Says the Medrash. Hashem Shem Mitziris Yisrael, all the Golas are called Mitzrayim because they oppress or contain or confine a Yid. Now Golas ain't a mash gelim koime. Golas is not a geographical displacement. It's not the ikir of Golos, it's a consequence. What is it? In Golos, he's under this pressure. Everything is make means what disturbs it, like nettles and presses. Especially it is the main component of his life, which is in the phrase nothing comes easy. Panos, nothing comes easy, but especially being up children, nothing is easy. Everything is a struggle, and especially the ikir is in the shamash is kaini. And what's it all there for? It's the crushing. Like the Rebbe says, enough with the external, now internally and paradoxically besimcha also. And besimcha. But he now elaborates. Golus is compared to Zriya, to planting. That's how the whole thing began, that Parah sent along branches, plantings. And he brought the psukim there that Eden compared to Hashem's grain sown in the land. I've sowed them, they will blossom. All this metaphor of seeds growing from the earth. What's the inyan? The seed is covered in earth in the ground. And it's only there that it truly grows, or grows, period. It might become a bigger seed if you don't put it in the ground, but it never produced the great oak tree, the fruit tree. How Bavusha Agada Nirkev and Nifsid bottle? What happens to the seed? It first has to rot, Nifsid, and literally become lost and lose its whole identity. Like the Rebbe says, there can't be this true growth from nothing to something, relatively speaking, from the seed to the tree, which is in the ground, unless the seed surrenders to the ground and merges with the ground. The real Kechat Semech is not in the seed. The Kechat Semech is in the ground, through the seed. But the seed only becomes a keli when it lets go of being a seed. If it's hanging on to, but wait, I'm a seed. Wait a minute, he's hanging on to his own mitzias. Then the keichas that would flow through him won't happen. That's the bittul. That's the critical component that a yid is therefore being able to mamshich this empowerment that comes into the Eibishter through the very Yeshemis that he calls upon in the various matzavim in life that he faces. So he goes on to say, the mitler that only if his yeshes rots, literally. I have a dear friend in Australia. His name is Yossi Klein. He visited, not in Europe, he visited MTC, the old MTC. He came once, he had a son learning here, a classmate, Taira Chassid. And he would say sometimes to me, how am I saying this? A company would say, it wasn't just me, that it was others, but mainly me. Saying, you, we call me Newton, and their nickname was Newton. Your gaiva stinks. That's a negative stinking. But then there's a healthy stink, rotting, and that's the rotting of the ego. So it has to be, and of course a statement like that helps you a little bit. So ayin, so it has to be ayin. Shenikra bittel hayesh la'ayin. This the Mittel Rebbe explains. That's the bittel hayesh to the ayin. Now it's becoming ayin. Hainu, the Rebbe continues shemitzias yesh in a keli b'chinas keichat zemer. Being a yesh is not a keli to the power of growth. Kim b'chinas ayin davke ba'ad being ayin. The first, I'm just going to say, obviously, not obviously, a comment. Bittel. It's all Chassidus talks about. It's our biggest challenge. The first measure of bittel is to the degree that it would get insulted. It can't take criticism, etc. If it being insulting destroys us, then to be able to take it, and it's hurtful, it hurts, acknowledge it and grow with it, that's the Tchilas Avodah. And the most difficult. The most difficult component of Avodah is its very foundation. You think the most difficult thing would be, the end, the highest dargis. The emphasis for it's to start, the Yesod, Kabbalah Soil, Bittul, that's the foundation, and it's the most difficult. It's not like, okay, you've done it, Bittul, move on. It's Parahikriv at every level. He accompanies them in their whole journey out of Mitzrayim, Malava them, B'shalach, as the Medrash says, teaching us that he accompanied them. There has to be this constant Bittul, constant rattling of the self and challenging of self. Never any room for having arrived, and certainly smugness, which is the antithesis of Kedusha. As Manis Friedman says, when it comes to marriage with the Eibishter, it's the same Nakuda. He says, you're ready to get married when you look in the mirror, and the fascination with yourself is you're no longer so, you're bored. You're bored. Enough with me, and let's something else, somebody else. As long as I'm still fascinated with me, you're not ready for marriage, which that means not ready for the whole Avodah doesn't get off the ground. Not to say you shouldn't do mitzvahs till then. But Avodah, Nachas Ruach, and Yisapche, that doesn't start. The Rebbe continues with even more graphic description. Bitla Yeshes Dirikoven Agadin, the bitl of the Yeshes, of the rotting of the seed. There's a word for it in science, not called rotting. What's it called? Not decomposition. There's a word for it. What is it? Germinates. Yeah, that's the word. We thrust him into the earth. Hello, where are you putting me? He's a seed and he wants to enjoy life. And we're thrusting him into the earth. It's not my place. I came from there a long time ago. Long moved on. No, he's put back in the earth, back in the womb, as it were. This is Mitzrayim, Shemeitza, Romeik. It kvetches. But that's the point. That's only through the bittul. That's where the true Eloi happens. From out of the constraints, I call unto Hashem. Aneni b'merchav. Answer me in your expansiveness. B'merchav kol. Like the pasuk says in Yeshaya, Yirmiyah, that it is a time of tzara for Yidden, and from it they will be saved. Says the Baal Shem Tov, the it goes on the tzara itself. The word tzara is the same letters as the word tzaya, light. As in tzaya Teva, the ark. It's the tzad itself that induces the light. How does Leonard Cohen say? There's nothing more. No, he says, forget your perfect offering, whatever it is. There's a crack in everything. That's what allows the light in. Yeah, that's how it goes. And this is Pari sending the people. He's a good man, and it's gone. Tried hard. I think it means, again, Paris, Lashon Pa'er, crowns. I don't know, maybe it's another translation of it. And branches, maybe it's connected to some growth things, I don't know. It's not Paris without fruit. Paris, different word. Yisrael. So he's sending Pada is thinking of Mitzrayim. This is what brings out the true growth. The true Ler only comes to the fore through Bittul. Okay, Be'ez Hashem will continue tomorrow, conclude the Maamer.